Welcome to October 2024's Men in Motion. My name is Brandon Biggs, and today I'm going to walk you through my blindness journey. There are three things that I hope you'll take away from my story. First is the crucial role that parents play in fostering self advocacy, the importance of blindness skills training, and how channeling frustration into action can lead to meaningful change. I was born with Leber's congenital amaurosis, LCA, the CRB1 variant, and for the first 18 months of my life, I managed to convince doctors that I was sighted. They reassured my parents that the oddities they were seeing were due to them being new parents, but my mom and dad weren't buying it. While I was pretty good at getting around, there were those pesky moments when I would run into poles or fall off ledges. And I always tried to convince my parents in my 2-year-old way that the poles and ledges moved in front of me. I didn't run into them. But after one particular incident where I fell off a 6-foot ledge, my parents said that's enough. And they took me to several different doctors and got second opinions. And finally, the truth came out. I was blind. This was both devastating and a relief to my parents. They had just been told that their firstborn child was blind and there was nothing they could do about it. My parents went through all the sticky emotions of grief and loss for me. I don't really remember much about this time except for playing with dinosaurs and knocking Lego towers over with my dinosaurs. My parents made a really important decision that shaped who I am today around that time. Instead of making sure the world was perfect and keeping me safe, they let me face the challenges of the world head on and were there with a bandage when I inevitably skinned my knees. They encouraged me to explore, touch everything, to be a typical kid. I joined kinder music, showed chickens through 4 H, and thanks to my teacher mom who homeschooled me, I was able to pursue my interests without limitation. When I wanted to perform in theater at around age 6, I auditioned and got the prestigious role of usher. I didn't even make it on stage, but thankfully this was not an indicator of what was to come. I would eventually perform in over 30 musicals and become a professional opera singer. But there were times when I did have challenges. I got frustrated when there were things like sports or video games where sight was a distinct advantage. I remember sitting with my friends playing a wrestling game where I would just crunch the buttons on the controller and swing wildly as fast as possible, hoping that I would hit something or someone. But this strategy was not particularly effective because they could just throw a chair at me and knock me out, or I would end up walking into a wall and start punching the wall, and they'd sneak up behind me and knock me out that way. I wanted to do more, but really had to accept that watching others play games was my lot in life. When I was about 14, though, I learned about audio games. These are games that can be played completely using audio and are often made by and for blind people. This was very transformative for my life. I gained independence, was able to compete on an equal playing field, and found my passion for programming, accessibility, and technology. In middle school, I really wanted to play basketball, so I called a meeting with my coach, the principal, my parents, and convinced them that I really wanted to play and that I would work with the coach to make sure I was being utilized effectively. They tried to scare me by saying that the ball flew at like 130 miles an hour, but I pointed out that I was very thick headed and they would have to try harder to convince me this was a bad idea. The fact that I called the meeting and facilitated it was probably something that convinced them more than the arguments that I made during the meeting, but I did end up playing basketball during middle school and had a great time. In high school, I focused on my blindness skills training. I had about 4 hours of orientation mobility a week and also had about an hour of independence skills train like daily living skills training a week. At 18, I moved out on my own, and very soon after that, I went and studied a year abroad in Italy, then lived in Europe for 4 more. During this time, I began to realize that there were so many inaccessible experiences in the world, and they needed a champion to make them accessible. That's why I devoted my life to making the world a more accessible place. I channel the anger and frustration that I feel with the inaccessibility that I face every day into making the world more accessible. This is where I'm at now. I'm currently getting my PhD at Georgia Tech so that I can build a lab of blind people to solve some of the most biggest problems in the blindness community. I'm currently making digital geographic maps accessible so that blind people can have access to cartography, digital cartography for the first time. Thank you for joining me today on my journey, and I hope that it helped you build some tools that you can use in facing some of the inevitable challenges that come with being blind. Thank you.